Greetings, Temple ISD teachers and distinguished members of our blended learning cohorts. Happy New Year, I'm delighted to say. The purpose of this video is just to help you navigate through the steps in completing this reflection and goal-setting activity that we've prepared for you after the recent completion of our blended learning walks. So this is just a tutorial to help you get this activity completed. By the way, your completion of this reflection and goal setting is going to really help us in our next steps in supporting you and in helping you develop your craft.
All right, so without further ado, the first link that you found in your email notification for this reflection and goal setting activity takes you to this Wakelet, this blended learning Wakelet here. So if we scroll down, the very first thing you'll see on the Wakelet collection is the TISD blended learning goals for 2021. And I'll explain later why that S is in parentheses. But it is a link to a Google slide. And so it says here below, use this progression chart to reflect on your progress, decide on areas you would like to develop, and set some goals. So from this Wakelet, the very first link takes you to the activity itself. I do want to show you below there, there is the flip grid, which we're going to see in another location, but you can find it here as well. And beneath that, we've really just curated all of the Temple ISD specific blended learning resources, and they live here in this Wakelet. So you're welcome to return to this place anytime you need for reference to our district's specific blended learning stuff. We've got the poster, we've got the progression chart, the video that was created back in January of 2020, the models themselves, the primer that Craig made, playlist help, etc. It's all here in this Wakelet that we've created. But this assignment, this activity, is again the very first link right here. When we click that, it is a force copy link, which means it's going to ask you to make a copy which will live in your own Google Drive. So once we click make a copy, and there we go. Now I want to point out that this is a Google slide presentation, but for the purposes of you completing it, you do not need and you should avoid hitting this present button. There are some things that we're going to be dragging and dropping, so you do not need to hit this present button. You're just going to be moving through the slides one at a time and following the steps listed. The first thing here is just going to tell you how you're going to be completing the reflection using the progression chart. Side note, this blended learning progression document, which you see here on slide 3, is the very same that guided our blended learning walks across the district. It's the very same document that we designed and used to collect data on the state of the district in terms of blended learning. Now it's your chance to consider your own progress through blended learning. This slide tells you how to do that. There's going to be some red X's off to the side, and you simply click them and drag them under each instructional area where you think you are in terms of progress. There's also guiding questions off to the right for you to read and consider. This is all about you reflecting on your own progress through blended learning and your development. So here's the first slide where you actually get to do that. Notice here off to the left, here's these little red X's that you can drag and drop. In terms of data tracking, for example, I'm going to read these and I'm maybe consider myself getting started. And if so, I'm just going to drop an X there. Now my next X, and I'm going to go look at goal setting and reflection. Teacher sets goals for students based on data, or am I meeting with students to adjust goals based on data? Or are the students setting their own goals based on data? Again, I'm just thinking, where am I at here? I'm going to say I'm advancing. Drop my X there, and so on. You'll find X's off to the right, and X's off to the left. Just simply drag those and drop them where you think you are. There are 2 slides worth of those, with X's off to either side. Please notice that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 instructional areas on the first slide, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 instructional areas on the second slide. And that's how you complete the reflection part. Moving into the goal setting portion, here are your instructions. You're going to choose one instructional area from this chart after you've reflected that inspires you, that you really want to develop. You're going to type that instructional area into the gold sticky I'm reading right here on the slide titled Goal for 2021. We're going to see that in just a moment. Then next to the now, describe your starting place. This, by the way, this activity that's the goal setting is called Now, New, Next. You might have heard of this before. This is the Now, New, Next protocol. Where am I at now? What is the new thing that I want to do? And what am I going to do next? The next part is kind of how am I going to do this new thing? So it's now, new, next. So again, next to now, describe your starting place or where you put that red X on the progression chart. Next to new, type in the description of the next phase in the progression chart for that instructional area. And I'll demonstrate this in a moment. Next to next, fill in what steps you're going to take to meet that goal. Okay? Now this slide is telling you you do have the option of setting 2 goals if you'd like. So there are 2 slides provided for you to do that. That's optional. Let's take a look at an example. Now remember, it said here on this gold sticky, we're going to type the instructional area that we're interested in, that we are inspired to develop, and this one is routines. Now where is that coming from? It's coming straight out of the progression chart. Notice on page 2, looks like, yes. See where it says routines right here? So that's the instructional area that the example slide has chosen as the one that they want to develop. You can choose any one of these. Maybe I wanted to get better at integration of digital resources. That would be the instructional area that I would type onto this gold sticky note. That's the one I want to get better at. So under now, over here on the right, I would simply type wherever it is on the progression I put my X. I'm going to type this language here. Put it in right there. Okay. New is the next phase of progression on that progression chart. So for example, if I'm doing data tracking and I think that I'm getting started, I put my X here, I would type in this, visual tracking of student progress, data walls, individual student data trackers that is frequently updated. I would type that language in under the new space. And next, this is where I am going to get creative and I'm going to think, how am I going to do this? What steps am I going to take to make that happen? And I'm going to type in a few ideas right here, or an idea that would actually change the status of my classroom towards that next phase in the progression. This is how we complete our goal setting slides. Now here's the first one, goal for 2021. With the golden blank, all you do is click it in order to type in it. Same things over here for now and for new and for next. You'll be completing these on yours. Here's the optional slide, which is the next slide down from your goal. Again, this is optional. You can do 2 if you'd like. And so that is the overall process of how to complete both the reflection phase, clicking and dragging the X's to where you feel you belong on the progression chart, and then the goal setting phase. Choosing an area on the progression chart, stating where you are now, what's the new step, and how to get there. Now, new, next. The last thing on this slide deck is a link to the Flipgrid. Before I get to that, I want to point out this right here. Do not forget, very important. Once I've completed all 10 of these slides and I've made it here, please be sure to click this share button and add your digital learning coach in as a collaborator to this slide deck, because for them to see where you believe you are, y'all, that is so critical to, speaking as a digital learning coach, if I see where my team member is in their perception on this progression chart, that is huge for my next conversation with that teacher. So please share this after you've completed it with your digital learning coach so that they know where you stand on the progression chart, and so that they know what your ideas are for improvement and they can support you in that. That is critical. So the very last thing to do is to be sure to hit the share button on slide, what do we have, 11, and share it with your digital learning coach. Last thing, this is the fun part. This link here takes us to a Flipgrid. Now, the Flipgrid part of this activity is really about community, okay? Your response to the Flipgrid is your opportunity to shine. So let's follow this link, and let me just give you just a brief glimpse of how to do this part. So when you click that link, it's going to take you to this blended learning goal for 2021 Flipgrid. You've got a prompt here to read, and there are 3 questions. They're much more general than the ones in your personal reflection. This is like overall your experience with blended learning itself type questions. The first one is, what big ahas are you experiencing in terms of your progress through blended learning? Second one, what excites you about the potential benefits of blended learning for your students? And the third one, what ideas do you have that might strengthen yourself or the district in terms of blended learning? And you can record your response by clicking this button, this red button here. That opens up the recording window. There's a 3-minute time limit, and that is how you use Flipgrid. But I want to point out one thing. This right here, me right here waving, is a tutorial video that's embedded. So if you're not familiar with Flipgrid, that right there is what you want to watch. It's very short. It just shows you how to use the stuff that's available to you when you're recording a response in Flipgrid. So this is the last part, and y'all, this is the fun part. This is where you can get in here, say what you think, say what you feel, and allow yourself to be seen and heard and have some fun. And this is another way also for all of us to kind of get out in the open about this blended learning progress and process and see what one another is thinking and feeling, and also make these next steps and these next conversations that much more valuable, that much more, I can't think of the word I'm trying to say, you know, that much more valid, because we have said the things, we have heard the things. Now we're down in the nitty gritty this coming semester, 2021, taking steps to grow. All right, so have some fun with this Flipgrid, and then you're complete. We're moving into the spring and summer of 2021, and thank y'all. Thank y'all very much for taking part in this work, for being a part of the cohorts, for welcoming us, the new team members in the digital learning department, as your coaches, as your colleagues, and we look forward to continuing this growth. And let me just take another opportunity to say that I am continuously blown away and impressed and just honored to work with you all, with the teachers in this district, and at my campuses, but at all the campuses, to see the incredible things happening in your classrooms. And I just want to thank you on behalf of these families, on behalf of these kids, as a dad, and as an educator. For everybody watching this, thanks, because this job that you do and wanting to improve at it is incredibly worthy of thanks. So we'll see y'all soon, and work out.